Today's video is on specifications for plastering works. Recommended plaster specifications. Single coat plaster thickness for both internal and external is 10 mm to 15 mm. Two coat plaster backing coat thickness is 10 mm to 12 mm, and finishing coat thickness is 3 mm to 8 mm. Where 2 or 3 coat plasters are adopted, as far as possible, the mix for the undercoats should contain coarse sand conforming to grading zone 2 of IS 383/1970 and having fineness modulus not less than 2.0. For single coat plaster, the fineness modulus of sand should be as far as possible 1.5 and conforming to grading zone 4 of IS 383/1970. Where only fine sand is available, the fineness modulus of sand may be improved by mixing the required percentage of coarse sand. The strength of plaster mix gets reduced with the reduction in the fineness modulus of sand. Adjustment of working to the setting properties of plaster. Maintenance of proper time intervals. Shrinkage, partly irreversible, occurs on drying, causing stresses to be set up both in the applied coat and in the undercoat or background. In order to avoid breakdown of adhesion between successive coats, it is very important that the drying shrinkage of the first coat should be materially complete before a subsequent coat is applied. The rate of drying will vary widely with conditions of temperature, humidity, and ventilation. Proper time interval serves to diminish the possibility of efflorescent salts finding their way to the final plaster surface, and also of the drying and naturing shrinkage, known as map crazing, of the undercoat reaching the finished plaster face over a period of time. The surface then shall be allowed to set for at least a day or two, depending upon the weather, 1 day in summer and 2 days in winter. During this period, the surface of this coat shall be kept damp and shall not be allowed to dry. Preparation of background for application of plaster. Cleanliness. The loose layer of dust on masonry shall be removed either by watering or by brushing as required. A freshly cast concrete surface is often covered by latents, and this shall be removed. A concrete surface may also often be contaminated by the soap which is formed with calcium hydroxide and the oils in the molds. The contaminated layer shall be removed by brush. Special care shall be taken in repairing for rendering an old plaster coat. Old layers of the plaster coat shall be completely removed and made good. Crumbled and frost-damaged parts shall be cut out and patched. Any trace of algae or mass formation shall be removed. If the background contains soluble salts, particularly sulfates, the application of the plaster shall be done only after the efflorescence of the salts is complete, and the efflorescence is thoroughly removed from the surface. Roughness. The roughness of the background may generally improve the bond of the plaster. A smooth surface may be roughened by wire brushing, if it is not hard, or by hacking or bush hammering if it is hard. Alternatively, to obtain a rough surface, a mortar 1 part to 1 and ½ part cement to 3 parts coarse sand by volume prepared to a wet consistency may be forcibly dashed onto the surface, spatter dash treatment, by suitable means onto a hard surface like concrete. After roughening the surface, care shall be taken to moisten the surface sufficiently before plastering, as otherwise the surface may tend to absorb considerable amount of water from the plaster. In addition to general roughness in the masonry, the joints shall also be raked to a depth of about 1 centimeter for providing key to the plaster. On a soft, smooth surface, after hacking a thin coat of cement slurry, 1-to-1 cement to fine sand may be applied. In special cases, wire netting, etc., may be fixed to improve further the key to the plaster. Precaution against discontinuity in background cracking of walls or of plaster is often caused by discontinuity. For instance, changing from concrete to brickwork, from clay brickwork to lightweight concrete blockwork, or even changing from one type of brick to another. Differential drying shrinkage is probably the main cause, but differences in thermal movements may also contribute. Reinforcement of the plaster by metal lathing or scrim over the junction is not always successful. The best treatment may be to separate the two portions by a neat cut through the plaster at the junction. Trueness of plastering system. The finished plaster surface shall not show any deviation more than 4 mm when checked with a straight edge of 2 meters length placed against the surface. Curing. To develop maximum strength and density in the plaster, it is necessary to cure cement and cement lime plasters properly. Each coat shall be kept damp continuously till the next coat is applied, or for a maximum period of 7 days. Moistening shall commence as soon as the plaster has hardened sufficiently and is not susceptible to injury. The water shall be applied by using a fine fog spray. Soaking of the wall shall be avoided, and only as much water as can be readily absorbed shall be used. Excessive evaporation on the sunny or windward sides of buildings in hot, dry weather may be prevented by hanging mattings or gunny bags on the outside of the plaster and keeping them wet. After the completion of the finishing coat, the plaster shall be kept wet for at least 7 days and shall be protected during that period from extremes of temperature and weather. Thank you for listening. These specifications were taken out from IS 1661 to 1972.